Welcome to Future Squared, the podcast all about corporate innovation and entrepreneurship. My name is Steve Glaveski, and each week I'll bring you authors, corporate innovation managers, entrepreneurs, and above all else, thought leaders on the topics of innovation, entrepreneurship, and self-improvement. Future Squared brings you a double dose of innovation inspiration every week to help you successfully navigate your innovation journey. Every Monday, I'll bring you a world-class thought leader such as Steve Blank, Alex Osterwalder, Neil Patel, Rand Fishkin, or Whitney Johnson, just to name a few. While every Friday, I'll bring you some quick, digestible insights myself to help end your week on a high before you head off for the weekend. Future Squared is proudly brought to you by Collective Campus, an innovation hub, school, and consultancy that works with large organizations to help them adopt the mindset, methodologies, and tools required to explore new business models and disruptive innovation in an era of rapid change. If your organization needs support coming up with ideas, testing and turning those ideas into reality, incubating teams, driving cultural change, or connecting and partnering with startups, then visit Collective Campus online at www.collectivecamp.us. And without further ado, here's today's podcast. Welcome back to Future Squared. Today I'll be speaking with the co-author of How to Be a Great Boss. If your employees brought their A-game to work every day, what would it mean for your company's performance? What would it mean for its ability to innovate and capture new growth opportunities? With 30 years experience in the restaurant industry, Rene learned the power of aligning people who have common values and the capacity to excel with a compelling reason to work hard at work worth doing. As a certified implementer of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, Rene facilitates, teaches, and coaches a complete business management system that aligns an organization's leaders with a common goal, helps them hold each other accountable to do what they commit to doing, and to become a more effective and cohesive team. Rene co-wrote his book with Gino Wickman, best-selling author of Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. So we'll be speaking to him about how that collaboration came to be. So with that, I bring you Rene Boer. Welcome to the show, Rene.
Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program, and you're joining us from Chicago, Illinois?
From Chicago, Illinois, where looks like we have a little bit of a storm coming in, and we're heading into fall, and I know you're heading into spring. So
yes.
On the opposite ends of the coin.
This is true, and I have to say, as a lifelong Phoenix Suns fan, Rene, I don't think I ever got over that 1993 final series loss against the Bulls. Charles Barkley versus Michael Jordan. I was about 9 years old at the time, and I have to admit, and it pains me to admit this to my audience, that I think I cried a little after that Game 6.
Yeah. The winners tell stories, and the losers say, deal the cards.
This is exactly true. This is right. So I understand you're a bit of a scuba diving enthusiast. Is that right?
Yeah, a little scuba diving. Cycling is really my number one passion. I've just been very fortunate to have been able to do some pretty incredible bike rides around the world. So I'll enjoy that, but I do a lot of scuba diving, yeah.
Fantastic. And any particular bike rides or scuba dives you've done recently that you'd like to share?
Well, I have a favorite ride. Here in the States, we have some wonderful national parks. And one of them, my favorite, is Glacier. It's actually an international park. Part of it is in Canada, and there's a road there that was engineered in the 1920s called Going to the Sun Road. And I've ridden that now for the last 4 years in a row, and it's just an incredible bike ride. Anybody out there listening as a cyclist, put that on your bucket list. You'll want to go to Glacier Park and do that bike ride. It's incredible.
Excellent.
But years ago, I had a chance with my wife, went to France, and I rode one of the famous stage races in the Tour de France, not in the race, but the actual route was going up Alpe d'Huez. So anybody that's a cyclist probably knows about Alpe d'Huez.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure to add those locations to the show notes. And speaking of rides, before I digress too far, I just wanted to say I had the opportunity to ride from Nice to Monaco a few months ago, and that scenic route along the coastline there is absolutely gorgeous. I cannot think of anything. It's just basically irreplaceable. It was just put you into flow, and if ever you have issues getting into flow and just appreciating the present moment, then that's definitely a fix for it. But Before I digress too far, Rene, obviously I wanted to talk to you about the recent book you've released or co-authored called How to Be a Great Boss. You co-authored this book with Gino Wickman, who was the best-selling author of Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. How did this collaboration with Gino come to be?
Well, Gino, I was one of the very first implementers to join EOS worldwide 10 years ago. And Gino and I would get together every once in a while and just talk about life goals. And I said, I really would love to someday write a book about the importance of a great boss in terms of having great employees. It's just something we've been talking about. And then about 2 years ago, for a cigar, we decided, let's do it. And it's been a great collaboration, a lot of hard work, it's a labor of love. But 2 years to the date of that cigar, the books are now out to the public through Amazon. We got calls today saying the books have arrived, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's funny. My previous guest on the podcast was a gentleman from Singularity University called Pascal Finette, and he was telling me how one of his ventures was more or less born over drinks with friends. So this week it's over a cigar. So it's funny how these social outings can sometimes give birth to new ventures.
Yeah. This is something that was near and dear to both.
Well, that's right. So let's talk a little bit more about that. The subject that's near and dear to both of you is essentially all about becoming a better boss and getting the most out of your people. So tell us a little bit about your background and the time that you've spent with, as an EOS facilitator, and perhaps tell us a little bit about what EOS actually is.
Sure. Well, I'll just start at the beginning. I'm actually an immigrant. My parents and my younger brother and I came to the States from the Netherlands when I was 5 years old. We learned English watching daytime television. They came here for the opportunity, not the guarantee, to live the American dream.
Of course.
First kid in my family to go to college. So I worked my way through at a place called Pizza Hut. And it was the perfect college kid job. I remember when the manager hired me, he said, I'm going to pay you $1.65 an hour, but if you say no, it's all the pizza you can eat and all the beer you can drink in an 8-hour shift.
Oof.
I thought, man, I've died and gone to heaven. So that actually helped launch. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, but that kind of got me started on a 30-year career in the restaurant industry as a franchisee and as a corporate officer in different, large brands. Then I got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, ran a couple of restaurants on my own, and then kind of burned out on the restaurant industry, and I was trying to figure out what am I going to do with the rest of my life, and I just peeled back the onion a little bit and realized that what I was really passionate about was what I'd done my whole life, which was building teams and trying to be a better boss. And about 10 years ago, I got introduced to Gino and EOS, and so for the last 10 years, that's what I've been doing. I've been really passionate about helping business owners get more of what they want from their business. So it's been a good venture.
Excellent. It's a great story, and it seems to be a common thread. Some of our recent guests, such as Ash Moria, who went out and built a number of startups himself and became quite good at finding product market fit, or at least determining whether the market wasn't there for a product, and eventually he just started teaching people this process. So in your case, it was, you spent 30 years in the restaurant industry as a restaurateur, as a franchisee, learning how to be a great boss, and eventually, as you said, it consumed you over time, but you learned a lot of valuable life skills, which you're now imparting to businesses around the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I feel I'm a pretty lucky guy. I get to work with people who really want to be the best, and they're open-minded. They got a little stuck, they're a little frustrated, but they got their eye on the prize. So
yeah.
They get more of what they want from their business and really from their lives.
Excellent.
That's a pretty good thing to wake up to every day.
Oh, definitely, and I think that gets you out of bed with a spring in your step, and there's none of this whole, I don't want to go to work today. I think once you get to a place where there is impact in what you're doing, there is purpose, there is passion, and you can see the results on a daily basis, there is nothing better. But on the book, Rene, Richard Branson is quoted as saying that his success is attributed to hiring people smarter than him, giving them a mission, and getting the hell out of the way. What are your thoughts on this?
I would agree that there's a number of things. I think the first thing is, there's two components to being a great boss.
Mm-hmm.
One is you've got to be an excellent leader, and at the same time, you've got to be an excellent manager.
Mm.
And they're a little bit different,
mm-hmm.
but they're equally important. And, you hear these debates all the time about what's more important, leadership and management or leadership. The fact of the matter is they're both important, and if you expect to be a great boss, you got to be able to do both of those well.
Mm.
And to get to Richard Branson's comment, when you think about the leadership part of it, so much of it is the ability to work on the business,
mm-hmm.
so to just be able to get up out of the weeds and look down on that business and spend time thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is about providing clear direction. And that isn't telling people what to do. That's creating a compelling vision and then providing them with the necessary tools.
Mm.
And then, just as Mr. Branson said, you got to be willing to let go of the line, get the heck out of the way, and let them do what you hired them to do.
Yeah.
And there's some challenges in that for a lot of leaders. A lot of people can't let go.
Yeah, and that often seems to be the undoing of a lot of startups who, are great at finding, say, that early stage, product market fit, but then, say, the founder doesn't want to get out of the way. And oftentimes that can be the difference between building, say, a $500,000 revenue business to a $100 million business, not getting out of the way and not delegating effectively and not empowering other people to make the decisions and take the actions that you once made.
No, that's exactly right. And when you think about how businesses grow, they grow a lot like children, right?
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if you're a parent. I raised a couple of daughters. When you think about how children grow, it's not a steady, uninterrupted, growth curve, right? I mean, they get to be a certain age where they learn the word no. They start asking why.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually at about how many years old, would you guess?
2.
2, yes. 2 years old.
Mm.
And you get them through that rough spot, and then they get to a point where they're actually asking for the keys to the car, and then they crash the car, and then, and so there are all these rough spots, and businesses go through the exact same thing. And the difference is, you got to be able to recognize when you're hitting that rough spot, and how do you get through. So in the beginning, the person that starts the business has got a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and he's doing or she's doing everything.
Mm.
They're involved in everything, and that works. I mean, that works to a certain point. Then you get to a point where you realize that, man, things have gotten a lot more complex.
Mm.
I'm feeling bogged down. I'm feeling like, I've got to, everybody's calling me, and you become the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And for people that haven't surrounded themselves with great bosses, people that can help take that responsibility of leading and managing other people, if they haven't hired the right bosses, boy, that just sets off, a whole bunch of other problems. It prevents them from really scaling the business.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, a lot of times they'll hire people for technical expertise, and you desperately need that. But if those people don't appreciate the importance of leading and managing the people below them and making them successful, the company's just not going to grow.
Mm.
And it's interesting. A lot of my clients say, our biggest barrier to growth is not capital. It's not the competition.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have the right people.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And you've touched on quite a few interesting points there. And one was about surrounding yourself with the right people. And, I'm a big believer in Jim Rohn's famous quote that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And particularly in an organizational context, it's about the team. Like you said, we need the right people. When, startups often talk about smart money versus dumb money. Like, it's great if we raise $500,000 to help grow our business, but if that money is coming from an investor who doesn't have any networks, doesn't have any domain expertise in the field we're working in, then it's not quite as effective as, say, a $50,000 investment from someone who has the networks, has the domain expertise, can help us make the right decisions quicker and help us scale. So how does one go about surrounding themselves with said great people?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and just kind of start at the beginning. I think there's two components to that. One of them is that people you surround yourself with, first of all, have to be the right people.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard Jim Collins comment about right people in the right seats.
Mm-hmm.
And we're big advocates of that. But we made that very simple. So when you think about right people, those are the people that value what you value most, right? So as a business owner, I think it's a thoughtful exercise to just think about, what are the qualities and characteristics, things about me that have gotten me to where I have? What's really important to me? At a deeper level than just, knowledge, expertise, stuff like that are more on the performance side. It's more of, what do you value as a person? And so, as an example, with the EOS, some of our core values are you have to be willing to help first, right? The world doesn't owe you a living. You've got to be one of those people that just sort of sees the glass as half full, right? And everything's an opportunity. And if you're willing to give, always comes back to you in spades. And another one is humbly confident. You got to know your stuff, but you don't have to be a know-it-all. So that's what I mean by core values. And so once that's articulated and really understood, if you start making hiring decisions around, I want to get to understand the person as a person. What do they value? Boy, that makes a big, big difference. Because what I've experienced in my years in business is people don't usually crash and burn because of the technical stuff. It's just they're not a good cultural fit.
Yeah.
And that comes up a lot. So that's very important. You got to have the right people. But at the same time, you also have to have the person that's the right fit to the seat. And so the EOS approach is at a high level. First, look at the structure of your organization. What are the necessary seats? Once you determine that, then it's what are the 5 major roles of those seats? You get everybody on your team to agree that, if it's a financial seat, these are the 5 roles. If it's a sales seat, whatever it is. Then when you put the person in the seat, you got to ask yourself, do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? This is where the wheels sometimes come off, too, because people get put in seats. 6 months later, you're sitting there thinking, this person's gone through 6 months of training. We sent them to all sorts of training seminars. Then we retrained them. And you just start to wake up one night and you realize, this guy just doesn't get it.
Yeah. Well,
I've seen it all the time. We worked with him for 2 years. He just doesn't get it. So think about that. So get it is almost like you got to have that going in. Sometimes, it takes a while to get, feel for the lay of the land. But for the most part, the person ought to understand the moving parts, right? The next piece, though, is want it. And it is amazing to me how to get it, want it, and have the capacity. How few people genuinely want the job. They have a burning desire to do it. They've got a fire in the belly to do the job. And that, a lot of times, holds people back. So just those two components, get it and want it, that's, as Dan Sullivan says, those are batteries included.
That's great.
I'm a marketer, damn it. I love marketing. I do that for free. Don't take me literally, but I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Think about capacity for a moment. There's four levels of capacity, and it starts with having the emotional capacity for the job, the empathy for it, to be able to understand your impact on others, and to be able to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, right? You've got emotional intelligence. Then you got to have the intellectual capacity for the job. You got to have the brains for it. You got to have the physical capacity, whether that's sitting behind a desk or lifting heavy objects. and you got to have the time capacity.
Mm.
And boy, that becomes a big issue for people. So if you're going to surround yourself with really, really great people, our advice would be start with what's important to you in terms of core values, and then clearly define what you need in terms of seats that need to be filled. Build a accountability chart. Don't just settle for an org chart that just organizes the titles. Get clarity around the seats you need, 5 major roles of the seats. You're going to make much, much better hiring decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a conversation with a Fortune 500 company the other day, and their objectives from that conversation were, we need our organization, we need everybody to start thinking like an entrepreneur and taking more risk and, taking more ownership and accountability over decisions made, et cetera, et cetera. And, you can, like you alluded to, you can teach them entrepreneurial methodologies. You can create an environment that supports said behaviors and actions. But ultimately, if that person just wants to do the 9 to 5, get paid and enjoy the weekend, and that's it, and they don't want to go above and beyond, they don't like change, which is, quite normal for us human beings, then you can spend all the time and money you want creating this perfect environment. But if the people's values don't align with the objectives and your values, then you're going to have a hard time getting them along for the ride.
Exactly right.
I just wanted to touch on the culture fit point you made, hiring people that share your values. And this is an interesting one because, of course, values alignment is critical, and we always talk about hiring for culture fit. But then there's another school of thought which says, well, in today's fast-moving environment, it's important to hire people that bring diversity of thought, diversity of culture and values to the table, so we have the ability to come up with better ideas and to perhaps see problems and challenges a different way. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting one because I think no matter where you are on the planet, core values are kind of a common thing. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter where you're from. If one of the core values is, just as an example, this is actually a core value of one of my clients, you have to be willing to sweep the floor. Now, what does that mean to you? You've got to be willing to sweep floors.
Well, ultimately, you've got to be willing to go the extra mile. You've got to be willing to get your hands doing work that you perhaps don't normally want to do or enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so from the owner all the way through that organization, everyone's willing to sweep floors, and everybody gets it. Right? And men, women, doesn't matter, ethnicity, it's like, you know what? We got to have people that are humble enough to sweep floors. They're going to do whatever it takes, right?
Sure.
That's a core value. And, another one is, people have something along the lines of, you got to be willing to always grow. You have to be constantly learning. You have to have that thirst for knowledge. That's the core value. Because if you're not growing, the alternative is not very pleasant, right?
This is right.
So this is where there's a lot of words that get thrown out there, right? Like integrity, quality, and service, and it's like blah, blah, blah. What does that really mean? Get it to the most simple language possible that everybody can relate to, that really gets them in the heart. Like, that's the team I want to be on. And quite frankly, I don't want to be working with people that aren't willing to sweep the floor. If you're that arrogant, and you're that unattentive, do I really want you in the boat?
Yeah.
So this is, I just couldn't be more passionate about it. And the other thing too about core values, you've got to be willing to fire people that don't meet your core values. And if they're really important, you've got to be willing to demonstrate that core values trumps performance.
Yeah, and on the topic of firing people, I know your book touches on performance management, and many bosses might find it difficult to deal with direct reports that are underperforming, especially if they've known this employee for a while. And the lines between being a colleague and being a friend may have, say, blurred a little. What's your take on how to tread this very delicate ground?
Yeah, so this is really, when you think about the title of the book, it's being a great boss. Not so great boss or an okay boss or better boss, just a great boss.
Just a great boss, yep.
Yeah, all you got to do is be great. It's not that hard, right? I think there's just, when you think about it, 4 simple things. Just understanding that being a boss can be simple, right? It can be very simple. And you know what? It has to be simple because being a great boss, it isn't easy. And so I think what's happened is we've made it so complicated that it scares a lot of people. It's like, golly, it's unbelievable. So when you can just clear your head and think, you know what, being a great boss, 4 things, it's got to be simple. The second one is your style does not matter. You don't have to change who you are. So you can read all these books about charismatic bosses, all these people that are, have a lot of glitz and glamour. But the fact of the matter is, I've worked for bosses that were really tough, and I've worked for bosses that were pretty easygoing. I've worked for introverts, extroverts, and it didn't matter. They all had something very consistent, and it wasn't their style, right? So the style doesn't matter. The third one, and this kind of gets to it, is you got to genuinely care about people and really understanding what that means. And what a lot of people think is, oh, yeah, I care about people. It's a squishy, wonderful. But no, caring about people is really thinking about, am I making the right kinds of decisions, and am I really concerned about them as a person, or do I just want to get as much out of them as possible? And this is where sometimes, bosses have people working for them that they're just hanging on.
Yeah.
So we avoid having conversations that might be a little difficult because, quite frankly, we're afraid to have them. We don't know how to have those kinds of conversations. So I've got some thoughts on that in a minute. But if you genuinely care about people, they'll know it because, the old saying goes, nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And caring means being able to have tough conversations.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, and this is really important, just a simple truth. If you want to be a great boss, you really got to want it. And I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that have that title and they wanted it because they wanted the corner offer, so they got a star or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they never got the fact that, boy, I really want to be a boss. I really want that job. I want to be a boss, and I want to be great at it. And if you can keep that in perspective, it could be a really fun thing because, there are, I don't think, think about this. You think any employee out there ever starts a job saying, you know what, my mission here is to just be a screw up.
Yeah.
I'm going to come in and I'm here to just make it miserable for everybody. Nobody starts a job like that. So what happened between when the person started and 90 days later when they're getting ready to quit?
Yeah.
Who owns that? I mean, when you sit around and say, well, that was the employee's fault. I don't buy that for a minute. So anyway, yeah, managing performance can be really, really simple. So if you want to talk about that a little bit more, I'd just love to do that.
Yeah, well, I think just quickly before we touch on how to manage that performance, I guess you raised an interesting point there around when you start a job, you never set out to be a screw up. You essentially want to do a good job, impress other people, get your pay rise, move up the ranks, access better opportunities, etc., etc. And I guess for many people, you become a boss and you still think like an employee. It's all about just doing your meeting the requirements of your PD or your KPIs, which may not often clearly articulate that people management and getting the most out of your staff is what you should be doing. So most people still have that employee mentality, even though they may be managing 5, 10, 20, 30 people.
Yep. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Yeah, so performance management, let's do it.
Well, yeah. So think about that for a minute. Anybody, I just remember I advanced, through different roles, I was always promoted based upon the job that I did. The assumption was, well, you'll be able to do the next job just as well.
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly right.
So when I'll never forget when I first got promoted to a multi-level manager job where I was managing 8 other managers. My father-in-law and I would have breakfast once a month. We used to call it the businessman's lunch. And one day he asked me, so who do you spend most of your time with? Your best people or your not so good people? And I said, well, that's easy. I spend all my time with my not so good people. And he said, I wouldn't want to work for you. And I said, well, why not? I'm a nice guy and I'm your son-in-law. He said, well, I would never see you.
Yeah.
I'd be one of your best people, and I would never get any of your time and attention. And that's part of the problem is when you get to be a boss, you have got to have enough time to be able to keep the circles connected with each of the people that work with you. And unfortunately, a lot of bosses just either don't have the time or can't find the time or just don't take the time to really have these meaningful conversations with employees over and above just the daily, weekly huddle kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. I just wanted to interject for a second, Rene, because I've worked for a few large global organizations who are quite notorious for this type of thing. So a lot of my peers who worked for these organizations and moved on always relay the story of how once they handed in their resignation letter, that's when they were made to feel special and valued and appreciated. But up until that point, it was few and far between, if at all. And once that resignation letter was handed in, it was like, oh, we thought you were going to be a leader of this company, and we saw you, taking over, or grooming you for a senior management role, et cetera, et cetera. But that was perhaps the first time these people heard this up until then, even though they'd worked for the company for 2, 3, or 4 years.
Well, this is so true. Here's the other thing that happened. I've seen people that gave their resignation, and then, in addition to everything that you said, the company said, "Well, we don't want you to leave. You've been really doing a great job. How many days to get you to stay? Pay raise. Let's kind of juice up your bonus." And then the other people find out about that. Like, well, wait a minute. So the only way I get any kind of recognition around here is I got to threaten.
Yeah.
I mean, that's total lunacy. It goes on all the time.
Yeah.
So you're bringing up a great point, which is, when you think about management practices, we call it rewarding and recognizing. And think about this for a minute. Napoleon said that a soldier will fight long and hard for a little strip of yellow ribbon. Right? So money's important, but a little strip of yellow ribbon. And Caesar, 1,800 years before Napoleon, would give out very simple bits of recognition. And for valor, it was a grass wreath that was placed on a legionary's head.
Wow.
Right? A little piece of yellow ribbon, a little bow of grass. And it's not the big, employee of the month programs. It's just being able to say to someone, thank you.
Yes.
Being able to recognize somebody in front of their peers and say, here's somebody that's really living one of our core values.
Yeah.
Point people out. It's so easy. But, a lot of bosses find this very, very difficult. They just have all this head trash around. Gosh, if I recognize somebody for a good job, they'd want a raise. Or even more cynical than that, well, I'm paying them to do that.
Yeah. That's...
I'm paying them.
Yeah.
Get the yellow ribbon.
Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, it is as simple as just saying thank you. Doesn't even need to be anything physical, no big employee of the month, shindigs. Just say thank you. I really appreciate that. And most of all, just be genuine about it. I mean, if it comes across as forced or labored, then it doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. The best ones are spontaneous and require no administration.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick story on that. David Novak, when he was, he ran Yum Brands for a long period of time. When he was the head of KFC, his special piece of recognition was a rubber chicken. I don't know if you've ever heard this story.
No.
But, Kentucky Fried Chicken. So he must have bought gross of these things, but they were rubber chickens that were maybe 18 inches long. And he would write with a felt tip pen on the chicken what the person had done that they were being recognized for. And this was like the highest award someone could get. And he would present the chicken, have it filled out with what that person had achieved that earned them this award. And then he'd have a photo taken with the person. He'd give the person the photo, and then he'd have the photo frame that he put it in his office.
Wow.
That went through that organization like wildfire. It's fun, spontaneous, and it's got the job done.
Well, that's it. And it also helps reinforce certain behaviors. And I've spoken about Amazon and how they have a monthly failure award for anybody who runs an experiment, it fails, they learn something, they can share that with the rest of the organization. But the kicker is that they only qualify for this award if they ran the experiment without permission.
Without permission?
Yeah, without permission. Basically, Amazon being Amazon, I guess they want to build an organization, or they already have built an organization that is big on experimentation and failing small and empowering their employees to do that. So, what's your view on, particularly in today's fast-moving environment? I think, business has come a long way from the 20th century where it was a lot more stable. Now technologies are basically displacing industries and business models at a rapid pace. How important is it to empower your people to experiment or to have a little bit more autonomy over their decisions and their actions?
Well, this is just a huge paradigm shift. There are people that get it, and there's people that don't. And here's the problem in so many organizations: when you think about where the issues get solved, where the ideas come up, it's all sitting at the very top of the organization. And this is a real awakening for a lot of leadership teams that we work with, because in the beginning, all the issues that they have that they're trying to work through, the question is, how come you guys are dealing with this? Right? And so what we've done is we've taught an entire workforce that you don't really have to think. You're just there to do what we tell you to do. And oh, by the way, you don't have to solve any problems. All you got to do is raise the problem, and one day maybe somebody will get around to taking care of it. So we've just conditioned people to just sort of show up, and this is why it should be no surprise. George Carlin, the comedian, said this really well. He said most people work just hard enough not to get fired, pay just enough money not to quit.
Yep. I totally buy that.
Right. So if you really want to empower people, you got to take the thumb off a little bit. Where you're just micromanaging and not really treating people like people. And then think about the risk of somebody making the wrong decision. It's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Well, if you have an environment that's healthy, it's like, hey, well, you know what? It's just an issue. We can solve that. You made a mistake. At least you made a decision. I think the biggest problem in a lot of these companies too is with a lot of people is they're just afraid to decide.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, we see that in a lot of the larger an organization gets, and particularly with a lot of public service organizations and government departments, there is that tendency to outsource accountability. And whenever a decision needs to be made, it's a matter of, well, let's call a meeting, and before you know it, there's about 10 people around a room, and it takes several weeks to get those people together. And as is the nature of many meetings at large companies, nothing is really decided, and then you end up having another meeting a month later with those same people, and problems just don't get solved anywhere near quick enough per that changing paradigm.
Exactly, and that's part of, when you think about it, if you've got a great relationship with your direct reports, you've got a good meeting pulse going. One of the skills that you should be teaching people is, we're going to go through a problem solving. We're going to go through an exercise where we're going to get better at identifying, discussing, and solving problems. And the purpose for the meeting is we're here to solve problems, get stuff done, and improve team health. That's why we're meeting.
Yeah.
We're meeting to give updates. We're not meeting for political reasons. We're here to tee them up, knock them down, make them go away forever, get them solved. Boy, when you can get that muscle built and really strengthen that muscle, it is powerful.
Yeah. And I think that does require a culture shift, like you've said, and oftentimes that's a marathon, not a sprint. So, I mean, if you are a manager at an organization that does have people who are scared to make decisions, where do you start in trying to change that culture to one where people take accountability, do experiment, and do have more ownership over stuff and just want to get stuff done?
Yeah, well, you said something very, very important. You said where people will take the accountability. What a lot of people struggle with is they say, how can I hold my people more accountable? And the simple answer is you can't. If you got to hold somebody accountable, either you're doing a lot of things wrong, namely not leading and managing, or you've got the wrong person hired, you've got the wrong person working for you. So you've got to create that environment, and it has to start at the top.
Yeah.
It has to start at the top. And so, when you have an owner or you have people on a leadership team that just don't get it, boy, it's a sad thing that it's just not going to. You're just not going to see those kinds of companies, I think, around. Not in this kind of environment.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm conscientious of time. I wanted to touch on the 5 leadership and management practices of all great bosses that the book puts forward. Can you just give us the 2,000-foot view of these practices, Rene?
Sure. So 5 leadership practices. So here we go. First one is giving clear direction. We talked about that earlier. That's not about telling people what to do. That's about creating an opening and really providing a compelling vision. So that's the first one. Where are we going and how are we going to get there? Why it's important. The next one, once you've given clear direction, is you got to provide the necessary tools.
Of course.
Resources, training, technology, basic stuff. And as part of those necessary tools, it's your time and attention. That's a tool. The third one is what we talked about earlier. You got to be willing to let go. Right? You got to be willing to delegate so that you can elevate to do what you need to do, which is really lead and manage. The fourth one is acting with the greater good in mind. The best leaders always make decisions for the greater good. And you're not making it at a department level or what's good for me. It's what's for the greater good of the whole organization. And the fifth one is taking clarity breaks. So this is a time to really think and work on the business. Yeah. And what Henry Ford said long ago is so true, that thinking is the hardest thing there is to do. That's why so few people engage in it. Right?
Yes,
so,
100%.
So if you can't disconnect, you can't lead. And those are the 5 leadership practices.
Yeah. I love the... So, Rene, I love the clarity breaks. That's something that we do regularly here at Collective Campus, and it's all about stepping back maybe once a month, once every 2 months at the absolute most, and saying, okay, maybe doing an 80-20 assessment as to the value of our time. Where do we generate the most value in our business? What should we be doing more of, less of? What should we start doing? What should we stop doing? And maybe revisiting the business model and saying, hey, what can we be tweaking here based on the analytics and based on our experiences of the past couple of months, and just having those open conversations, no judgment. Everybody has a say, and just constantly evolving. And I think organizations need to be practicing these clarity breaks as often as possible, because the world is moving way too quickly for them to rest on a 5-year strategic plan.
Well, exactly. And it's just taking time to think. So, I love to give my clients these clarity break journals. And I just say, find a time, whether it's weekly, monthly, just put it on your calendar, a time where you're going to just check up, an hour or 2 or 3 or whatever works for you, and just open the thing. You open up that journal, you've got a blank page and a pen. That's all you need.
Yep.
And you made a great suggestion. If you put your let's say you put your accountability chart in there, or your business goals for the year, or just some things that might prompt your thinking a little bit, because this isn't a chance to get rid of your to-do list.
No.
Right? Go really think about what are the things that are just driving me nuts, and what's really going on here. And I've got so much wonderful feedback from people over the years that said, in the beginning I thought that whole clarity break thing was silly. And if people went, where would I ever find the time? And as Gino says, the time you take will save you time. Like
exactly.
Yeah, that reminds me of put first things first. I think it's habit number 4 from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is all about urgency versus importance. And oftentimes, if not always, the typical manager will always prioritize what's urgent over what's important. But spending a bit of time on that important stuff, delegating and outsourcing and automating repeatable tasks is going to save you time to focus on what you're really, really good at. And that's, I know, something that the book also calls out, which is, being an effective manager is about managing your time effectively. And not spending time doing X, Y, Z and all the stuff that you would do if you're a startup founder. Once that business evolves and you've got 20 or 30 employees and you've got a finance department and HR and all the rest of it going on, you need to know how to let go and how to make the most of your time. And a big part of that is stepping back and saying, okay, where am I spending my time where perhaps I shouldn't be, and where am I getting the most return on investment for my time?
Yeah. Well, and there's an exercise in the book at the very beginning that, call it delegate and elevate. The challenge is and this takes a little time and it can't be rushed, but this was life-changing for me. The challenge is to write down all the business-related activities that you find yourself doing over a course of a week or a day or a month, right? So it's going to take a certain amount of time and really be detailed. Write down every activity that you find yourself doing. When you get done, you're going to be amazed. If you've done this well, you're going to have a huge list. Right?
Yeah.
So on that list, and this is boss related, put the things that are boss related, that really relate to managing people, put those in like the third column, save the first 2 columns for all the rest of the stuff. But you're going to have a huge list, and the delegate elevate exercise has 4 quadrants. So the upper left-hand side are things that you love to do and you're really great at doing. So those are the things that give you energy, and it's your unique ability that's like your sweet spot. And the number 2 quadrant to the right of that, but still at the top, is things that you're good at and that you like to do. And then below the line, you've got 2 boxes. The lower left-hand one is things that you're good at, but you just don't like doing them anymore. For whatever reason. Burnout, doesn't matter. And then the bottom right-hand one is stuff not only are you not good at it, you don't like doing it either. When I did that exercise, Steve, 10 years ago, most of my activities were in the bottom left-hand corner. Things that I was good at.
Wow.
I just didn't like to do them anymore. And the things that I loved to do and I was really great at, I was spending no time doing. So that's not a great life.
No.
That's not great. So you're exactly right. If you really want to get your life back, you want to get your time back, you've got to be able to let go. And if you can't, it's just not.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a great little quadrant there. And I think, like you said, if you're doing stuff that you're good at, that you love, you're going to get energy from that, and you're going to finish up every day just feeling charged and positive, and you're going to get into flow, you're going to do a better job, and ultimately it's going to create more opportunities for you. If you're doing something that you hate, but you're good at it, chances are it's not sustainable, and you won't be able to do a great job at that forever because you simply don't enjoy it. And when you don't enjoy something, you don't put in the same kind of effort.
Exactly. exactly right.
And a great source for these tasks I found is we use Asana, which is a task management tool. So I'm able to just go back through the last month or two and see all the tasks that I've knocked off, and then group them into different activities, and then I'd be able to just pick them up and put them into this quadrant, and that would help me then better identify tasks to delegate and automate and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
The tool called Asana?
Asana, yeah. It's one of many tools. I mean, you can use Trello. There's countless task management tools out there, but we find Asana is very, very useful, and it's also quite helpful on the go because you can access it via your mobile phone. I wish I was getting an affiliate fee from them for this, but I'm not. So
the management practice.
Yes.
So the first one, and this is, again, it's so simple, like keeping expectations clear.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a two-way street. So that's, as a boss, that's my expectations of my direct reports, but also understanding what are their expectations of me. So we're absolutely crystal clear on expectations. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense, Rene.
There have been a lot of stories that I could share where it was not a two-way street. In fact, it wasn't really happening at all. The expectations weren't very clear. Second one is communicating well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a two-way street, right? And as bosses, unfortunately, we spend more time telling than we ever spend listening, and that's just got to stop.
Yeah.
Would be much more effective than a great boss if we could just turn it around, spend 80% of our time asking, and only 20% of our time telling. It will change your world. So communicating well, there's a lot more detail in the book about tools that can help you be a better communicator. The third one is something we touched on earlier, and this is the meeting pulse, keeping the circles connected, and just making sure that you're giving time where time is needed with each of your direct reports. And a big part of that, this is the fourth management practice, and this is having scheduled quarterly conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so every quarter, you're getting together with your direct reports. They're meeting with you. These meetings are 30 to 40 minute stops. The context for the meeting is core values, the roles that they play in the organization, and the priorities that they've been given that they're getting done or not done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of a structure to it, but the context are those three things, which we call them the 555. So the conversation is around two questions, and it's about what's working and what's not working. So you're just having a conversation. So, Fred, tell me what's working.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is a chance for your direct report to just let you know what he or she feels is really working well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's obviously an opportunity for you to give a little recognition.
Right?
And if you've done a good job of keeping the circles connected, there's all sorts of things you can acknowledge and say, yeah, I would agree, those are working really, really well. Now you ask, what's not working?
Yeah.
If you created a great relationship, that person will tell you, well, since you asked.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. We're seeing some organizations now move towards weekly reviews, like Deloitte. And what are your thoughts on the frequency? I know you've put forward quarterly. Do you think there's value in bringing that back or making it even more frequent?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm not saying don't have any other conversations, but the thing about quarterly is it really builds anticipation that this is an event, right? It's off-site. You never do it in your office.
Mm-hmm.
Take the person out for a cup of coffee or lunch or breakfast, whatever works, but it's away from the office, and there's no documentation. The whole purpose of the conversation is I want to strengthen my relationship. So if I'm filling out a form, that's a little disingenuous.
Correct.
And then the other thing about it is you're not turning this into the HR department, right? So think about how many organizations there's more emphasis on getting the doggone forms filled out than there is on helping bloggers get better at having these kinds of conversations, because sometimes you're having to have a conversation around what's not working, and this is a friendly tap on the shoulder. Hey, we got to get this fixed. And now, the onus is on the employee now. It's on the direct report. So what are you going to do to get this working, and how can I help?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm here to help. I want you to succeed. This isn't about pointing out where you stumbled and where you could have done better.
No.
How can I help you succeed? So think of the power of every quarter, every 90 days, getting together with each of your direct reports, and all you're doing is having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we do a similar thing here where, we always start the conversation with, how do you think you've gone lately? What did you do well? What do you think you can improve? And it's all about asking them questions and seeing what they think. And then post that, we'll say, okay, well, this is what we can do to perhaps help you address this. I mean, where do you want to go in the organization? All that sort of stuff. What things do you want to develop? And we break we talk about the 3 Ds. So one is delivery, so just getting stuff done. Design, which is how are they helping us improve the organization, identifying opportunities to design new revenue opportunities or whatever it is. And discovery, what are they doing to improve their own capabilities? Are they learning? Are they reading? What are they doing to get out there and just improve themselves? So it's those three Ds that I find work well for us. It may not work for other organizations, and it is always, like you said, very informal. No forms to fill out. Critical.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and so that gets us to the fifth one. We talked about rewarding and recognizing, but one of the pieces of recognizing is if you're doing these quarterly conversations well, very rarely are you going to have to get into the three-strike rule, we call it. Some organizations call it the performance improvement plan.
Yeah.
But sometimes, despite all of our best efforts, the relationship really isn't working. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is, people get ignored. So we have people that are working in organizations for years. Everybody knows, including that person, that they're really not the right person or they're really not in the right seat. It just goes on and on and on. And it's not fair to the person and it's not fair to the organization. So the three-strike rule is, getting very clear on what the issue is, getting acknowledgement that the issue exists and that the person is going to do something about it and establishing a reasonable time frame. So that's strike one. Strike two is following up. If everything's been solved, great. We're back on track. But if not, you're scheduling the third meeting, and the third meeting, if they still haven't done it, then we have to be prepared to terminate someone.
Yeah.
So if that's done well, and it can be, we help people get to a place that's better for them and it's better for the organization.
Yeah, I love that. We'll capture the leadership and management practices in our show notes for our listeners. Rene, we have about 3 minutes left, so I'd love to get into our lightning round. Are you ready?
Okay.
Let's do this. So if you could work for any company at any stage of the company lifecycle, who would it be and why?
Any company existing?
Existing, past.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't think I could work for another company.
Yeah, that's fair.
I really enjoy doing what I'm doing in my own little company. As I said, I'm working with so many wonderful people and so many wonderful leadership teams in all these different privately held organizations. I love every one of them. Every one of them's different. They all have something in common.
Yeah.
Open-minded.
Well, let me rephrase. Let me rephrase then, Rene. Which organization at which stage of the company lifecycle do you think you could learn a hell of a lot?
I think a startup has always been, to me, kind of exciting.
Yeah.
It's just putting the team together at the beginning with the idea of, hey, this isn't about an idea or a product. This is about what we could be. And let's get on the same page with why that's important, where we're going.
Yeah.
I would much prefer to be part of a growing company at the beginning, even though it might be wrought with lots of risks, than a company that is not really focused on growth.
Yeah, Couldn't agree more. And, if I was to answer that question, I would definitely agree. Early stage, whether it's an Apple or a Pixar or these companies that have gone on to just, revolutionize industries and just recreate the way we actually go about our day to day. But being involved in that early stage would be so exciting. So question number 2, Rene, is if you could ask anyone a question, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
There was a program on years ago that if you could have dinner with anybody in history, who would it be? and not only anybody, but bringing a whole group of people together and pretending it was a dinner party, and everybody would show up in character and in costume. You could put a heck of a cool group together. I would love to have dinner with Teddy Roosevelt.
Awesome. And what would you ask Teddy?
I think I would love to ask Teddy about his take on what's going on in the world today. I just thought he was definitely my favorite president.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
Since we're just sort of thinking,
yeah,
I think it would be really cool to go and watch Vincent van Gogh paint.
Yeah, wow.
Favorite artist. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe we should tell our friends at some of the VR companies we know to recreate that experience for you, and you can just put on some VR headsets and off you go. You can watch him for hours. Fantastic. And finally, Rene, I know you mentioned cycling and scuba diving, but aside from that, do you have any rituals or routines to help you stay on top of your game?
Well, the clarity break for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that, and the other thing, I enjoy. Not a lot of people know this, but I do a little painting, so that's kind of a get off and do something that's completely different than what I find myself doing on a daily basis. So
yeah,
I kind of enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I can see how that would be quite therapeutic. Yep, fantastic. So,
I think
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that there's been a lot said about physical health, and I just feel very fortunate that I am in good health. And, staying healthy is so important to having a sharp mind.
Yeah.
And, you got to be focused on both. You got to have balance there, and you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's a challenge for a lot of people. Certainly it's a challenge for me. I mean, always trying to keep those two things in balance.
Yeah, well, I think that comes back to a point you raised early on in this interview, which was you've got to want it, and if you want it, you'll find a way to make time to keep your body and your mind in check.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll find a lot more people on the planet that want to be a great boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And on the topic of being a great boss, our audience can pick up a copy of the book at Amazon and all good book retailers, both online and offline. Where can they find out perhaps a little bit more about yourself, Rene?
You can find me at eosworldwide.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can email me at rene@tractionprocess.com.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an assistant that myself would love to respond to your email. The book is available at beagreatboss.com. So there's a website, it has an infographic. There's a toolkit that is available for free.
Great.
It's a PDF, and you can download that. There's also an audio version of the book coming out shortly. In fact, it should be out already. The book's also available online through Barnes & Noble. So pick up a copy of the book, get the infographic toolkit, call if you need help.
Fantastic. We'll be sure to add all of those show notes, all of those links to the show notes for our listeners, and I think there'll be quite a few of them downloading that toolkit to learn how to become even better bosses than they already are in some cases. So thanks again for your time today, Rene. You've been a great guest. You've been dropping what I like to call value bombs left, right, and center, and I'm sure our audience will get a lot of value out of that. So thanks again.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Take care.
You too. Cheers.
Thus concludes my chat with Rene Boer. Hope you enjoyed that. As always, if you're picking up what we're putting down, show us some love on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher simply by sharing, liking, or subscribing to the show. Don't forget you can access a ton of resources at collectivecamp.us, and when I mean resources, I'm talking blog posts, podcasts, videos, webinars, and innovation tools to help you brainstorm, come up with new ideas, and test those new ideas. So that's collectivecamp.us. Until next time, Future Squared out.